I made a critical mistake, and some things need to be readjusted because holy Jesus. Yeah. I should have crossed my T's and dotted my I's like I normally did, but this time around I just kind of winged it and I fumbled. I fumbled like the Bills did against the damn Broncos. Oh, what the hell? Okay, listen. Okay. So here's the thing, lads, ladies, boys, and girls across all ages, space and time, whether you're in the future or in the past, doesn't matter. We need to go back. There was a poll that was done by the Japanese fans where it's ongoing, as far as I understand, and it'll be fully unveiled in the summertime. But right now it has 1.7 million votes. And our Jupiter over on his Twitter kind of told us, okay, so right here are the top 10. It's Kizaru, Shamrock, Mihawk, Loki, Luffy, Blackbeard, Dragon, Akainu, Shanks, and Imu-sama. But there was a mistake. I should have double checked the translation of the page itself. I didn't do that. When you actually double check the page translation, it's not the top 10 that we get, because in reality, every character is right except for one. It's Shamrock. Number 9 is not Shamrock. No. Number 9 is Law. Law over Kizaru, Law over Shamrock and Garling, Law over Kuzan, because Kuzan's not even on there. Law over Garp, Law over Green Bull, over Fujitora. That shocked me. I am not gonna cap. That really, like, wait a minute, whoa, hold on. That's Law, man. They put Law at number 9. Now again, this may change, it probably will change come, let's say, summertime when they reveal the full votes and so on and so forth. But the fact that Law is so high up right now on the Japanese fans' radar, where they're putting him over Kizaru, over Kuzan and the other admirals outside of Akainu, Sakazuki, over Ben Beckman, over Garb, over all these dudes. It's like, whoa, that's insane GLAZE for Law. Is it because they just love Rocinante so much? Because Rocinante and Law are two of the most popular characters in One Piece, particularly in Japan, where they love those two. They love Law and love Rocinante. It's part of popularity, of course it is, obviously. But is there some truth to the idea that Law could be a top 10 worthy fighter right now in the story? Is there some merit to it? And the crazy part is that even though I would say they are off base, I think that right now the Japanese are off base. I would say that given Oda's focus moving forward for the future of the series, thematically, it doesn't make much sense for Law to be this high in the power scaling. I can also say it's not without merit. I can say that. So let me get to that first before I counter and say why it doesn't make any more sense at this point in time. The reason why I think they have Law scaled so high is because, again, he's a fan favorite character and they love Rocinante. And to be fair, Law's flashback with Rocinante and company and Doflamingo and so on is some of the best content in One Piece. It is still arguably in the top 3 or top 4 all-time One Piece flashbacks. I would say it's better than God Valley. Really scant, as Kaido says, a scant few. But I think in terms of what he's accomplished in the story itself, he's done some of the most phenomenal things to where I argue he is someone that is admiral. At least I think he is admiral level. You could argue he's under the current admirals like Grima, Fujitora, Kizaru. That's what I do. I think that's fair. But I could be downscaling Law because 3 emperors, Kaido first, Big Mom second, then Blackbeard third, have acknowledged the power of Trafalgar D Water Law, immensely so. Where before Zoro scarred Kaido, it was Law who was bypassing Kaido's natural defenses. The defenses that, mind you, Luffy was outputting so much physicality and so much power when he first fought against Kaido, and Kaido not even a dent. In the anime, it's even crazier because in the anime, Luffy does a King Kong gun right to this man's face. Kaido eats that King Kong gun and keeps it pushing, bro. The same thing that could blast through Dofi's strings, that could slice through meteorites with ease. That's insane. The fact that Kaido could take that, and yet here he is getting completely flummoxed, perplexed, and annihilated internally by Law's ability. I gotta be wary of Trafalgar D Water Law. Even though Big Mom had her bones broken by the bull that Kid made, it was Law that she acknowledged for his powers being extremely dangerous. We all know the OPOP, it's in the name. OPOP no me. He doesn't need Conqueror's Haki to be one of the most lethal fighters in the verse. Many guys on, let's say, the top end strata, guys like the Admirals, potentially, not say it's a case, but potentially Blackbeard, some of these dudes just don't have Conqueror's Haki. Probably not confirmed for some of them, but right now they don't. And Law is up there because his powers are just so unbelievably good. Big Mom acknowledged the power of Law before she made her bones with the homies and they reattached themselves and they fixed right back up. When you think about what caused the damage to her bones in the first place, was it just really the bull that Kid made, or was it because of the internal shockwaves that Law was producing throughout her whole body, which weakened her skeletal structure, which allowed Kid to have so much damage on Big Mom? And then, of course, there's Mr. All Day, Every Day, 24/7, 365 Marshall D. Teach, aka Davy D. Teach. The man has many titles, like Daenerys Targaryen, many titles. And even though he is a man of many titles, he was experiencing many shockwaves internally throughout his whole body when Trafalgar D. Votel Law was doing what he was doing. Law was able to cause Blackbeard an extreme amount of pain. And even though he's built for that, and he is a very sloppy fighter, the fact remains is that Law was able to fight significantly well against Blackbeard up until, of course, he goes in off-screen mode. He starts to use his apex ability, the Yami Yami no Mi, which does what? Counters Deathroot powers. Law is someone that is clearly top heavy in his ability. His Haki game is good to the point where he can even negate other abilities' effects on him, but his Haki game is not what he's known for. He has very good sword skills. He's a top tier doctor. He is a great strategist, has many skills, but he is still top heavy in his Deathroot ability. And because of that, Blackbeard counters what he's best at. That's a very important fact to remember. When any Deathroot user fights against Blackbeard, they are going in as a disadvantage because his powers negate their powers to an extent. Now, if you have very strong Haki, there's a good chance where you could mitigate or even negate the negation effects of the Yami Yami no Mi. So let's say in the future, someone like Luffy would have such strong Conqueror's Haki that he would start to mitigate or even negate the negation effects of the Yami Yami no Mi. Negative, positive. But in Law's case, he does not have that advantage. He does not. So when you think about Law's recognition, it makes sense that people in Japan say, oh, hold on, this man got recognized by 3 Emperors of the Sea. BB and company had to jump his boys, and they were doing very well up until Law started to get full-on countered by the Yami Yami no Mi, which again, he's going in there at a disadvantage. And even still, after the fact, it was all said and done, Law is defeated on the ground, but BB isn't just chilling comfortably, smoking a pack like he's Sukuna who just beat Jogo. No. He is bleeding, he is huffing, wheezing. That's Blackbeard. That is Blackbeard at the end of that fight. On God. Like, whoa. Okay. Clearly, this wasn't an easy fight. Even though you counter Law's abilities, even still, it wasn't easy. At a disadvantage, Law still had BB going. Water. I need a water break. Goddamn. That's how Law was moving. That's how Law was moving, and the Japanese fans saw that and say, "Oh my God, sugoi." Now, though that in mind, that's I think enough to say, hey, yeah, okay, we can see why he is in the top 10 based on Japanese fans, because Blackbeard himself, who's number 5, was struggling. He won, but he was struggling against Law, so maybe Law should be in the top 10 too. But then on top of that, look at what he did throughout the entirety of Wano Country. He has some of the best feats in the entire story by far and away. Not just the internal crazy damage he did upon Big Mom and Kaido, but I mean, people know, man. Puncture Willie ain't no joke. Puncture Willie ain't no joke. Oh. Puncture Willie is, to this day, it still gives me nightmares, man. The fact that Law's sword could extend that far down, just knowing that part of that distance is literally the upper half of Zunisha. Basically, it's not far off to say that this man's sword would literally go from the sea all the way to Skypiea. Or in reverse, his sword could reach from the surface of the water all the way down to Fishman Island. It is not a stretch to say that. Oh, and I mean that literally. It is not a stretch to say that, because this man was going down to a magma chamber when he was on a floating island. So all of that for a wide diameter that we see the Holy makes, all of that is just shockwave damage, man. Internal organ bypassing shockwave damage. I think that Law is straddling on Continental. That's what I think, personally speaking. That's what I think in terms of his attack power. A hole that was the same length as the Bajrang guns. Luffy, of course, physical force would kind of go inside that, but Law's bypassing internal organs up. No. Crazy, nuts, insanity with Trafalgar deep. And again, I think all the reason why to believe that Japanese fans will say, yeah, like, look at that movie did the Puncture Willie. Look at what he's done before in the past. Like, this guy, he's so powerful, you have to respect it. Moving mountains via his teleportation, when Burgess throws him around, he's all world, all glaze, baby. He is someone that I think is worthy of being at least an admiral. I think that absolutely. I do put him safely under Kizaru and Green Bull and Fujitora, but to be fair, I can see it kind of going the other way around too. Absolutely. I'm not mad at that. Not for Law. But in reality, I would say that Law is still probably being outpaced by Kuzan. By Kizaru, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say that. Where you could argue thematically, and this is where I think the themes are very important for the story. I think that when Oda had Kizaru and the Marines and company, and even the elders, lose to Luffy and company, but Blackbeard win against Law and Shanks win against Kid, and then look at the very end of chapter 1121, where you see who I think are the prime movers of the story, the final saga. I think that was Oda kind of telling us through various ways that the previous saga's rivals were no longer the primary rivals for Luffy and the Strat crew. For the final stretch of the story, the primary rivals are going to be for Luffy, the other Emperors of the Sea, Buggy and the Cross Guild, Blackbeard and the Blackbeard Pirates, and of course Shanks and the Red Hair Pirates. I believe that these are Luffy's rivals in earnest. Kid and Law have been replaced for Luffy's true rivals for the One Piece treasure, as it should be. I think that a lot of people who think that Law is the top 10 strongest fighter are relying on old era content from the past saga. Haven't updated their graphics cards yet. They're still using the old generation tech. And on that note, my God, they're getting a price increase because the RAM, RAM is just going through the moon in price. Man, and they just said, oh yeah, just build a game PC, is gonna be cheap as hell. Now with those RAM prices raising, no sorry. That being said, I think that when you look at the themes of the story, even though Law is still, of course, very powerful, that doesn't change. Moving forward, I think that Blackbeard and Luffy are going to outpace him in power and at the rate of their growth, for sure. I think that Law will fall behind other guys in the future. I think for sure, Sabo, Ben Beckman, guys like these have to be put over Law, because Sabo, I think, will outpace for sure, without question. Again, Kuzan, I think, should be higher than Law too. And I think Ben Beckman, just by default of being the strongest man on the Red Hair Pirates, as far as we know, right? Ben Beckman, I think, is going to be up there as well. So on that note, I can understand why they did it. I think it's crazy, and I'm not mad at it either. I can understand why. He is one of the best in the entire series. The man is nuts. All of his stats and attack power, DC, speed, strength, durability, endurance, abilities. I think Law has like the damn near full package. But of course, his abilities being the prima thing that makes him so OP, no me. But top 10 OP, that's where I'll draw the line. No, I don't think so. But let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. If you enjoy boys video content, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.